Hey, Quiz and Minds, this is Mrs. G. I'm going to make this quick, rough video about making our robots in TinkerCAD, our robot chassis. I'm going to start with our class code so you can log in. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, but you can stop it whenever you want to. So here's our class code, and here are the nicknames so you can log in. I'm going to do a quick review of TinkerCAD. Where our design is going to be 190 across and about 150 horizontally. So if you want to, you can come down here and make your settings bigger. Make it 300 by 300. It's down here in the bottom right corner. That's optional. But otherwise, your robot will take up most of the build plane, and some people find that difficult. So you can change the workspace measurements down here. To see the top and bottom, you have this little dice. And to get to your default view, you click that. You can scroll in and out with your, if you have a mouse, with your mouse button, or you can zoom in and out with these. Okay, so that's just some basic navigation. Home view. If you want to, let's go over these up here. If we have a shape and we want to copy it, you have to select it by clicking on it. You can hit the copy button or Control-C on your keyboard. You can paste it, and then you can just move it away with your keyboard arrows. I find that's easiest. If you want to group these shapes, I'm going to show you, I'm going to change this one to a different color to show you these are two different shapes right now. If I wanted to group them, I could drag my mouse, holding my mouse button down, drag it over both of them to select it, and hit, this is the group button. It looks like two shapes that have been grouped. I realize that I'm going to want to move this second square. So now when they're both when that shape is selected, because now it's all one piece, I can hit the ungroup button to separate them. Now they're separate pieces again. If I wanted to align them, it's not moving with my arrow. Okay, let me just remind you of the align tool. Okay, I could click on one shape, hold the shift key down and click on the other, or I can again hold the mouse button down and drag across. There's two ways to select items. Again, I'm gonna do that again. I'm gonna click on it, hit the shift key on my computer, and then click on this. I'm gonna click on this. This is the align tool, and I'm gonna align these in the middle. So I'm gonna click here and here, and you can see they're aligned in the middle this way and this way. I can also align it this way and that way. That align the tops, or I can align the bottoms. So this one is the vertical align tool. You can see this here. So I just wanted again to remind you of the align tool. And this, I keep this out of the way, but there are times when you're going to want it. And that is when you bring text in. If you have some text in, this is where you change the text. So if this is pushed up here, you have text, you're going to want to open that up and then change the text to your text. Okay, that's just some basic navigation. So next, I'm going to go to actually my design so we can just see what all the sizes are. I've seen most of you already have like pretty solid designs going. So I'm just going to go over the dimensions. They don't have to be exactly like this. These are, you know, if this is, I have 70 by 70. If you have 68 by 68, that's not going to make a huge difference. But this is about the size of the Arduino little controller we're going to use, plus the screw terminals that we're going to insert into the those sockets so that we can screw our wires in instead of just pushing them in. They'll stay longer that way. So this is 70 by 70. And up at the top here, I have just a rectangle that's 40 by 29. And it could be 40 by 30, you know, it doesn't matter that much. It probably got moved a little bit in resize. We're going to have a little tiny breadboard that we put our ultrasonic distance sensor in. So that's what that is for. if I wanted to center those, which isn't entirely necessary, I could click on one, hold the shift key down, click on this one, and align them with each other. And on the bottom, we're going to have some placeholders. So the easiest way for me to show you all the measurements is to bring the ruler tool down here. And I think you guys have all used that. And I'm going to show you from the bottom. And that's when this little dice thing can be really helpful. Okay, so on the bottom, I have these placeholders for our motors. And they are, you can see about 21 across, or 20 is fine, and about 60 long. So we could just make them 60 by 20. Okay, and there's 2 of them, and just push them out close to the edges. Our battery cases are going to be about 50 by 50, and there's 2 of them. We're also going to do something that I've not done in the past, but I think would give us more room on the top. We're going to take our little motor controllers, and they're 40 by 40, and I think it'd be easier for us to mount those on the bottom. Eventually, we're going to have like a big ball bearing up at the top here, but that doesn't need to have room saved for it. So basically, these are the main things we're going to be putting on our board that we want to save space for, because then it'll be easier if you just put your holes in on TinkerCAD. So some of the things we're going to put our holes in for, got a weird little shape there, are holes so that we can put zip ties in. And so you're going to have a hole about 8 by 8 because the zip ties are kind of thick. And just put them just pretty close to the motor, kind of like this. You know, again, they don't have to be super precise, but a few millimeters away. And that's going to be for our zip ties. We are going to have on and off switches. And for the on and off switches, again, we're going to have a hole here, wherever you want to put the on and off switch. You just don't want to have an on and off switch where you've got some of these other pieces. So that's why we're putting them here. So the on and off switch can be, you know, the wires are pretty long. If you wanted to try to squeeze them in here, I think that'd be kind of a tight squeeze. I would put them up here somewhere. So an on and off switch for one of them is for the motors. They have their own battery pack, and one of them is for the Arduino. Or you could put all of the on and off switches over to one side if you like, you know, as long as they don't conflict with the battery case. I could move them all over here. I'm also having you put a second hole in, because I think what we'll do is, since the motor shield is on the bottom, we're going to put an LED on that switch circuit, and that way you can tell, it'll remind you to turn them off. I don't have that on my prototype robot, and I've left my battery cases on overnight, and that's not a good idea. So you have a switch and an LED, and a switch and an LED, and we've been making them 8. For these, actually, I would maybe make them like 7.5. They're 8, a tiny bit big for those. If you've made them and you've done 8 already, it's fine. It doesn't really matter. We can, I put one of the switches on and it does mount just fine. Just make sure they're round. The main thing, make sure they're round, but no bigger than 8. We also want some holes just to run our wires, because it can be nice to take these wires that are going to come off of the ultrasonic distance sensor and run them under the robot, because the more wires you have sticking up from here to here, it's easier for your fingers to catch on them and pull them out. So I would put some wires there, and maybe even so they go underneath. I maybe even put little set of holes here that I could zip tie those wires underneath. That is optional. I would put at least a set of wires over there, and maybe a set. They can probably come up through here, or just even maybe another hole here, so that I can bring the wires up for there. So maybe I'm going to duplicate that hole and put it up here. This again is optional. If you didn't already do this and you don't want to do it, it's okay. I just think it's easier to have places to move your wires. So again, if you want some of these wire holes don't have to be 8 across. They can be a little bit smaller because the wires are going to be small. So again, this is some of your individual choice. And then text. So to get the text on here, if you want text, and your text can face this way, or you can turn it to face the other way. And to turn it again, you grab these tools here, and the further out you pull the mouse, the smaller the increment it will turn. That we want to be 180. You can do it either way. So the front people are seeing it this way, or you can do it back the other way. To do it back the other way, click this. You can also just click however many degrees you want to put in that box and type it in, and it'll do that for you. That's the turning tool. One other thing I just kind of thought about later is your robot doesn't have to be perfectly rectangular. If you wanted to, you could do something like this and grab a circle. It has to be the same height as your chassis, but I don't know, put something like a circle up here. And lower it to the same height. What's the height on this? 5. Yeah, that's pretty good. If you wanted to be like rounded on the top, or you could grab a hole and, you know, make it kind of pointed at the top. Make it more, something like that. And a little bit. Anyways, this is just a thought. You don't obviously have to do this, but I'm just going to, I know that's a little rough, but I'm just going to click it, hit the shift key, and group it so you can see what that might look like. And then click this, hold down the shift key, click that, group it. And I have like a robot that's shaped like that, and that's optional. And I know, Matthew, I've already printed yours, but you can go ahead and do that. I'll print you another one. It's not a problem at all. So those are just some options there. Once you're done, you can type done in here so that I know to print it. You can, don't need to group it, okay? Because I'm going to copy the whole thing, and I'm going to take off these placeholders. I'm just going to leave this with all the holes and your text. So there's no need to group it. I printed Matthew's just so you could see what it looks like, and I'll bring it. It looks great. But again, Matthew, if you want to, I forgot to mention this, you know, reshape it, you're welcome to do that, and I'll print it again. It was good for me just to print one as a prototype. So that's about it, what I can think of that you need. My email is karen@gadgetlab.org, and you are more than welcome to email me if you have any questions. I'm going to type it up here. That will be my project name. And so feel free to email me with your questions. We're not going to have these ready by, you know, November 10th. We're going to do something else. We're going to start soldering the battery packs and getting other things ready to do some soldering for these, the distance sensor holder. And I'll bring them back the following week, and hopefully start mounting all of these things that we've prepared. So anyways, that's it. Thank you. Thanks for all your patience. I know things have been glitchy, and I apologize for that. And I will see you on Thursday.